Streaming, streaming, meow, 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 meow. Meow. Meow, meow, meow. Meow. Can you guys hear me? Excellent. That keyboard is my awesome new Black Widow keyboard, so you should just enjoy the ASMR sounds of it. Hello. Okay, how's everyone doing? A bit soft. I'm using a different microphone for streaming, so it may sound a bit different to my videos. I can turn it up. Okay. Right. Not the typing class stream. I can't even touch type, actually. I just type really fast and it just clickety-click. It's nice. Hello. No, we haven't started the story yet. It's the first time I've been on stream for quite a long time, so I wanted to just check everything was working. You know, wait for a few people to turn up. And then I will start reading the Ghislaine story, which is one I've already done a video about. So it... Ooh! Thank you, Toasty. That's really kind of you. If, while I'm reading the story, anybody does anything like that or asks any interesting questions, I will address them at the end of the story. I don't want to break up the reading the thing to talk to the chat, but there will be some time afterwards where I'll do some answers to your questions and general chatting. So the good thing about this story is it was kind of cut content from the anime, so it won't spoil anything as long as you're up to date with the anime. It basically takes place immediately after the mass teleportation event, and it happens in the time while Eris and Rudeus are traveling around. So it's already happened in the anime, but wasn't shown. So it's pretty cool. Yes, this will go up as a VOD. I mean, it automatically does on YouTube. So as long as nobody takes it down for copyright or anything, it should be available to watch as soon as we're done here. Oh, if my voice sounds different, it is just because I'm using a different microphone. Oh, thank you, Lewis. It's good to see you on here, actually. I see you in my comments all the time, so it's nice. Yeah, about the microphone and my voice, it's I'm using a little streaming mic just so that it's not in the way of my face while I'm talking, because usually I use a big one with a big pop filter and everything, so it's not quite as good a mic, but it should be alright for this. If my face is out of sync, that's probably just the difference in the lag between my streaming software and the actual stream. I'm really getting used to all this technology. I haven't streamed for about a year because I tried to do one that went really wrong during lockdown. Like, everybody was using the internet connection at the same time, where a lot of people were working from home and things, and it just kind of didn't really work out, and that kind of put me off it. So that's why I feel a little bit nervous about this, because I had one go wrong. But yeah, I'm hoping that people will at least enjoy the story. So, okay, seems like we have quite a few people here. So I'm going to start. Okay, this is The Forest Goddess, and it's from Volume 2 of the Mushoku Tensei light novel. Just gonna change something on my audio settings so I don't hear myself speaking, because the slight delay is a bit confusing for my ears. Okay. Okay, we all good? Oh, any word on base Mushoku Tensei story reads, even if only the free version? No, I'm not going to do that. It's 2.5 million words long. It would take years. I want to do the side stories just because they're things not everybody reads that really do add something. And it's just nice to be able to do a standalone story on stream rather than try and read out entire novels forever. So that's the kind of thing I'm going to be doing. This one is shorter than I'll normally be doing. I might do things like jobless oblige, redundancy, maybe some of the longer ReZero ones, maybe like the if roots, things like that. But I'm not reading entire massive series out. Okay, so I'm going to start talking now. Well, I'm obviously talking already, but I'm going to start reading now. So if you ask me any questions or anything, I will answer at the end. So, the Forest Goddess. Directly east of Azura Kingdom and just over the mountains, right in the middle of the central continent, was a sphere of many tiny nations fighting each other for dominion over the region. This place, where countries were built only to meet their demise shortly thereafter and be rebuilt once more, was called the Conflict Zone by the locals. One of the small countries in the Conflict Zone was the Markian mercenary country. Established by the great mercenary whose name it bore, it became a warlike nation that based its economy on dispatching mercenaries to neighbouring countries. There was a pub nestled in one of Markian's corners. There, one mercenary was bragging to another about one of the scars atop his shoulder. "Look at this scar. I got it during the defence of Rudeus." "Oh, that battle. That was hard fought. Where were you stationed?" "Arisfort's Eastern Gate. That place was hell. I came damn close to losing my wonderful, beloved right arm here. Hell doesn't even begin to describe what happened there. I heard you guys were flanked and had your forces devastated. Not much different from what happened to you guys in the defensive battle of Rudeus. I heard you guys had your supply routes cut off, so you didn't even have food." The Markian mercenary country supported all other nations equally and without discrimination. The mercenaries they dispatched were incredibly feared. Their troops were great warriors, their commanders calm and collected, and their tacticians excelled at military tactics. Once they entered battle, they led their allies to victory without fail. They were a symbol of triumph and fear on the battlefield. That was what it meant to be a Markian mercenary. "It's incredible we made it out of there alive." "Well, that's what you call the grace of the Forest Goddess." One of the mercenaries retrieved a pendant from his breast pocket. There was a relief carved into the wood, a profile of a woman with animal-like ears. Seeing this, the other mercenary unsheathed the short sword at his side. The blade was dyed red with paint. Then a toast to the Forest Goddess Lane. "May we be the victors in the coming battles as well. Cheers." With their items in one hand and wine cups in the other, the two mercenaries drank every last drop of alcohol. That was their way of praying. Ah, that's some good stuff. Yeah, gotta have some alcohol after battle. Markian stuff is the best around. And women, too. Shall we hit up the brothel after this, then? Let's keep that part a secret from the goddess. The night wore on as the two merrily shared drinks. The forest goddess Lane was the god of the Markian mercenaries. According to legend, she was the goddess of salvation. Who appeared 100 years ago when the Markian mercenary country was on the verge of collapse. Her guidance was one of the country's legendary commander-in-chiefs, rescued the country from disaster. Thanks to that legend, many of Markian's mercenaries believed that when they were on the verge of death, the forest goddess would appear out of nowhere and save them. That was why they prayed to her. However, strangely enough, there was only one country in the entire world that believed in the forest goddess Lane, and that was the Markian mercenary country. Why was it only this particular country that had such a custom? The answer was one interesting story indeed. Year 417 of the Armoured Dragon. It was the year of the displacement incident in Azura Kingdom. Not 2 years had passed since the mercenary king Markian proclaimed the establishment of the fledgling Markian mercenary country. The country was on the verge of collapse and facing a crisis. This wasn't a rare occurrence. In the conflict zone, small countries were established and destroyed all the time. People would wait for an opportune chance to build their own country, with the ambition of taking over the whole region and creating an even greater country, only for that dream to be shattered and fragmented. Markian mercenary country was just another casualty of that cycle, a disorganized nation about to meet the same fate, nothing more, nothing less. Still, nothing happened without a cause. Their first step down the path of destruction was diplomacy. The country, whose economy was based around deploying mercenaries, possessed a national and military power beyond what was expected for a developing country, yet that was the very cause of their problem. The two countries in closest contact to Markian, Dikato Kingdom and the Bros Empire, were deeply wary of the mercenary country. They schemed against it, and when diplomatic relations broke down, both countries proclaimed war upon Markian simultaneously. Although it was a mercenary country, it was powerless against the combined might of two other nations. Markian made a show of fierce resistance, but it lost half its territory after the sudden surrender of an important fortress and the loss of numerous large battles. There was no future for the country. Those mercenaries who thought as much fled to other countries or turned traitor. What was to become the decisive battle, which would afterward become known as the site of Markian's final battle, took place in a large basin. Markian gathered its military strength and took position against the two allied countries. Up till that point, the countries had launched their attacks separately, but the basin was an important landmark, with forests infested with monsters on either side. This restricted their ability to maneuver through it. They had to band together. That was also why the basin was such a key point. Once Markian fell, the other two countries would need to control this point to seize power over the area around the capital. Additionally, once that was over, it was easy to imagine the conflict that would then break out between the Dikato Kingdom and the Bros Empire. Markian had already tried to capitalize on the fraught nature of the relationship between those two countries, but their military strength was reduced to the point where they had little ability to put up any meaningful opposition. They had their hands full just trying to keep the country from collapsing. Bigot Mercenal, the captain of the 3rd unit of Markian's mercenary company, led 10 of his men into the depths of the forest. Aegean Forest, as it was called, was infested with monsters. Since time immemorial, the ruler of this area had forbidden passage through it, or so those who lived nearby unanimously declared. Woodcutters even refused to enter Aegean Forest. This meant passing through with troops was impossible, even in the current battle. Markian's two enemy countries avoided approaching the forest. King Markian decided to take advantage of that. Their troops would break through the forest and launch a surprise attack on one of the two enemies. A simple but effective plan. That said, Markian's military strength was not what it used to be. Just the act of invading the forest would reduce their numbers greatly when they were accosted by various beasts. Forget launching a strong surprise attack. It seemed they would only be squandering resources. That was where their strategy came into play. In the previous battle, they'd secured several Bros Empire suits of armor. They would have some of their soldiers don these and then attack the Dikato Empire from behind. The two countries had formed a temporary alliance until Markian was vanquished. Once that was over, the two would inevitably begin fighting for control over the land they'd conquered. Even now, tensions ran high as both countries began considering what methods would be most beneficial to them. It would only take one push for their alliance to snap, creating conflict between them. That was Markian's aim. Bigot Mercenal, known for being daring and resolute, was put in charge of the operation. He would pass through the forest and launch a powerful sneak attack with a small company of mercenaries. It was an incredibly dangerous endeavor. They would not come back alive even if they succeeded. In fact, they might have to take their own lives to avoid capture. They couldn't bring anything that may give away their identity. No one could know who they were or where they came from. There was no honor to be had from this mission. Instead, they would die as traitors. Despite that, Bigot said to Markian, "Do not worry, for tales of us shall be passed on. We will live as the heroes that led this country to victory during one of its great battles, just like the legendary twin gods Migas and Gumis. Is that not an honor by itself?" Bigot took on his duty, seeing the similarity between himself and the legendary heroes of 400 years ago who died in battle against Laplace. He had 10 men under his command. 3 were intermediate-tier North God-style sword fighters, while the other 7 were mercenaries unassociated with the 3 sword styles. Bigot himself was an advanced-tier sword god-style swordsman, but their group had no healer, and none among them were particularly skilled. In these parts, magicians were valuable assets to parties, but since they were preparing for the final battle, Markian couldn't afford to assign any to a team of throwaway pawns. True victory meant the country had to both trigger warfare between its enemies, then capitalize on that opportunity and come out triumphant. "I never thought I would be doing something like this," Bigot thought, laughing in self-derision. Bigot was destined to be a mercenary. He was born into a mercenary band. His father died in battle while his mother was pregnant with him, and his mother died in battle not long after he was born. He was sold as a slave and bought by what would eventually become the Markian Mercenary Company. That was where he learned about swordplay and battle. Ever since then, he lived only for money and survival. He never dreamed that at the end of it all, he would be battling for honor. "As if I'm the knight of some kingdom," he thought. Everyone knew knights were the only ones who died for honor. But then it occurred to Bigot. Maybe I am a knight of Markian. It made him proud to think that way. For the longest time, he hadn't belonged anywhere. It was only through great hardship that he'd been able to call Markian his home. Now he would fight to protect it. He'd mocked those ideals in the past for being sappy, but now that he was in a similar position, they didn't seem so bad after all. "Commander, just a little further. Don't let your guard down. Now that we've come this far, we don't want to be killed by humans." True enough. Until that point, they'd encountered few monsters. They'd been walking the entire day and only had 2 run-ins. It was like a miracle. Despite that, he had lost one of his men. They'd been moving as carefully as possible, but hidden in the undergrowth was a red-leaf tiger. It attacked unseen, and 1 soldier died. But the beast was already heavily injured, and seemed to be running from someone. The red-leaf tiger was the most fearsome of the beasts in this forest. Just who in the world could have done that? Could it be the person who rules over this forest? Bigot wondered. He had heard rumors of the forest's ruler before. Carentosaurus, an A-class beast with a giant lizard-like body, over 5 meters in length. He didn't know if it really existed or not, but if it did, it would surely be capable of leaving a B-class red-leaf tiger in critical condition. That also meant that if they were attacked by such a creature, neither he nor his 9 remaining men would get out unscathed, so he pressed out even more cautiously than before. Fortunately, he had experience manoeuvring through a forest, enough to avoid encountering any monsters. If he happened to encounter any, he at least had the strength to kill it before it called for help. So long as they managed that, they would be fine. Sadly, Bigot and his men weren't the only ones who thought so. What? Before Bigot realised what was happening, he and his men had run into another group. This party numbered 10 as well. Together they made a group of 20 men, all of them clad in armour of the Bros Empire. The only difference was that Bigot and his men were fakes. "You there, give us the name of your unit." A man clad in lustrous, striking armour stood before Bigot, demanding he identify himself. "Draw your swords, let none return alive." Bigot ignored the question and instead shouted at his men, who drew their swords and leaped at the enemy. "Deserters, huh? Die." The Bros Empire commander labelled them thus after they launched their attack. He was mistaken, but that didn't change what had to be done. "Kill them! Bros doesn't need cowards who run from battle." The Bros soldiers were swift. In the blink of an eye, 2 of Bigot's men had been cut down. In mere moments, they were on the defensive. The Bros Empire's soldiers were incredibly skilled. He didn't know it at the time, but they were actually fighting against the Emperor's personal bodyguards. What were the bodyguards doing here in the forest, away from the Emperor? It was because of something that happened an hour ago. The Bros Emperor was personally walking through their military camp to inspire his soldiers when a beast suddenly sprang out of the forest and attacked. The creature was quickly dispatched, but the Emperor sustained a small scratch from the struggle and was given medical treatment afterward. Still, the fact remained that he'd been attacked right before his soldiers' very eyes. Sensing a drop in morale, the Emperor ordered his bodyguards to march. "Go forth and fetch the hide of a great fierce beast," he commanded. Then he could claim that he fought and felled the creature, and that was how he sustained such a wound. The bodyguards immediately set out into the forest. Mysteriously enough, they didn't encounter any beasts, but instead came upon Bigot and his party. Why here? The strongest of Bigot's men was easily slain by the Bros' bodyguards. "I'm sure you already know, but I'm the captain of the Emperor's guards, Klein Dinaltus, Water Saint Klein. Did you seriously think you could win? Damn it. Cease your resistance and surrender, then you may at least have your lives." Bigot panicked. There was no way they could surrender. If they were caught and investigated, they would be exposed as pretenders. Markian would fall. After that, the Bros Empire and Dikato Kingdom would fight. He didn't know who would win, but either way, the country he had such fond memories of would disappear. On the other hand, he had no other options. They were clearly outmatched, and if they continued any longer, their destruction would be inevitable. "I'm sorry, Markian," Bigot apologised to the comrades he held in esteem within his heart. That was when it happened. Grah! A gigantic lizard came flying at them. Its body, all 5 meters of it, was a vivid green, and its majestic form was riddled with open wounds, blood pouring out of them. Red bubbles came foaming out of its mouth as it moved between the 2 opposing groups and collapsed. Then, just after a moment, a wild beast came leaping out after it. This beast let out a fierce war cry as it landed upon the lizard's head and drove its sword through it. The lizard let out a final anguished cry before it died. There was no time for them to process what had just happened. Even after slaying the lizard, the wild beast didn't stop moving. It sprang to the ground and in the blink of an eye cut down 2 of the Emperor's bodyguards. "What are you doing?" For a moment, Bigot thought that this had to be the ruler of the forest. However, this wild beast had the form of a woman. Warm brown skin, fiery red hair, and 2 fully erect beast-folk ears. It also held a sword, a sword that had a thin, one-sided blade, which gleamed an eerie red colour and had an inscription on it. "Who are you?" yelled Klein, the captain of the bodyguards, as he stepped forward. "Arrgh!" The beast didn't answer. It merely responded to the presence of an enemy wielding a sword in front of it. "Fight back!" With a battle cry, the beast slashed at Klein. Klein was a water saint. The water god style was a school of swordplay that allowed one to fend off any attack and launch a deadly counter in return. At least, that was supposed to be the case. The longsword of light. So this is the sword god style. When the beast's sword met Klein's blade broke in two. Then a split formed in Klein's armor as the attack sundered his clothing, skin, muscle, and finally bone in succession. That was when Klein's lower and upper half separated. The Bros' bodyguards didn't even flinch as their commander's torso fell in front of them with a wet thud. "How dare you! Our commander! We'll avenge him!" They were all sword fighters of intermediate tier in either the water god or sword god style. They were undeniably strong. And yet... "Gah!" the beast howled. With each swing of its blood-red blade, one of those men were vivisected. The beast moved like a flash of light. Its voice was enough to make one recoil. No one was any match for it. In moments, the entire guard was wiped out. Bigot and his men couldn't even move. They had no idea what had just happened. The beast had appeared out of nowhere, and in an overwhelming show of strength, destroyed everything in its path. But why? For what purpose? It was looking their way. Reason had fled from its eyes that now fixated on Bigot and his men, full of bloodlust, amplifying their fear. The clothes it wore were revealing, but terror overwhelmed any sense of attraction they may have felt. That was right. This beast was a woman. It had a woman's form. As soon as he realized that, the gears turned in the back of Bigot's mind. It was the story of the sword saint that taught him swordplay. That sword saint was a just and honourable warrior of the sword god style who had trained in the Holy Land of Swords. They wouldn't tell him why they'd decided to become a mercenary, but they did talk about their prior training experience. One of the other people there was violent, wouldn't listen to anyone. She was almost like a mad dog. She surpassed me and became a swords king, but she wasn't a bad person, just an idiot. Everyone hated her because she lost control in extreme situations and went mad, attacking everyone, whether they be friend or foe. The sword fighter in that tale was the woman in front of him now. That description fit exactly. "By any chance," he called out to her as he slipped into the god sword style, bow his teacher had taught him, bending to one knee and tucking his head forward, showing respect and submission. "Are you the Sword King, Lady Ghislaine de Daldia?" The moment he said that, the beast stilled. After a short time, Ghislaine regained her sense of reason. "I've often heard rumours, but I never dreamed I would meet you in a place like this." She didn't respond to his words. Instead, she glared at him with her bloodshot eyes and questioned him very matter-of-factly. "You there, you haven't seen a girl around 12 years old with pure red hair? Or a boy of about 10 who's a proficient mage?" "No, I haven't." He shook his head, thinking her words over. A red-haired girl of approximately 12, a magician boy of approximately 10. He'd seen many slaves like that in his life, but none of them around this area. Besides, this was the Aegean forest. It was a place filled with beasts. Why did she think there would be children in a place like this? "I see. Sorry to get in your way." Ghislaine began walking away. After a few steps, she suddenly stopped and looked back, her head cocked. "By the way, where is this?" Bigot, too, cocked his head. He told her she was in the conflict zone, located on the northernmost part of the southern half of the central continent. He then explained they were in a forest within the northern part of the Markian mercenary country. Bigot and his men were in the middle of an operation. They didn't really have the luxury of time to explain, but she had just spared their lives, and if they upset her, they might be next. This was his attempt at crisis management. "Impossible!" Ghislaine was in disbelief. She didn't understand how she'd ended up here. Bigot asked for the details of her situation. She'd been acting as the bodyguard for a young girl in Azura Kingdom's Fitua region when they were attacked. Before she knew what was happening, she'd been swallowed by some light and had ended up in this forest. As she fought hordes of monsters, she lost herself to the excitement of battle and turned into a berserker that killed anything that came near her. In any case, this is the conflict zone's Markian mercenary country. Make no mistake about it. So it is. Ghislaine stopped to think. Bigot had no idea what she was thinking about. After 5 long seconds, she finally looked up at the sky. Then, I have to go south to return to Azura. Using the sun to guide her, she turned straight south. That was the same direction that Bigot and his men were heading. Please wait, there's an enemy camp in that direction. And what about it? What about it? I mean, what are you planning to do? Anyone who gets in my way gets cut down, that's all. There was a ferocity in her eyes that made him doubt if she was even in possession of reason. Bigot had no words. Just what had her so stirred up? Hopefully Rudeus is with Lady Eris, but there's a chance they were both transported somewhere else, just like I was. I have to hurry. After hearing that, he understood. We're not that different, he thought. Those 2 children, particularly the red-haired girl, were more important than anything to the Sword King. She was desperate to protect that which was precious to her. In that case, why don't we travel part of the way together? We also have something to take care of in that direction. Very well. For some reason, Bigot felt particularly proud. Although their objectives differed, he felt like he was standing side by side with his Sword King, fighting for something he wanted to protect. Bigot, his men, and Ghislaine slipped out from the forest and attacked the Dikito Kingdom from behind. Their luck was good. As soon as the battle with Markian began, all the troops were focused on what was in front of them. The Brose Emperor found it suspicious that his bodyguards had failed to return. He suspected the Dikito Kingdom was planning an ambush for his troops, and that his bodyguards had been killed after discovering their plot. After all, the Dikito King's main army was close to the forest. It seemed likely they had troops hiding further within. In truth, the Dikito King was a coward, and had camped with his back to the forest so he couldn't be caught by surprise by the Brose Empire. The combination of these factors would later lead to Bigot's success. Ghislaine howled, and Bigot let out a fierce cry as he led his men into battle. They charged right into the enemy camp where the Dikito King's tent was set up. The king was startled by their surprise attack. Seeing their armor, he immediately thought the Brose Emperor had launched a sneak attack from the forest. He hailed a nearby attendant and commanded an assault on the Brose Empire. Then he tried to take shelter from the chaos. It was only 10 seconds later when Ghislaine tore the Dikito King asunder with her blade, killing him. If he'd lived, he might have realized Bigot and his men were not of the Brose Empire and retracted his orders, but an imperial edict had absolute power. The Dikito Kingdom surged into battle against the Brose Empire. The Brose Empire had predicted such an attack would come, so while they were caught off guard by its timing, they were able to put up a fight. That was when the Markian Mercenary Company took up arms. It was a 3-pronged free-for-all. Bigot found himself surrounded by enemies, but he was still alive. It was his mission to die deceiving the Dikito Kingdom into thinking the attack was the work of the Brose Empire, yet still he clung to life. He and his men had already been separated, and the only ally close to him was a single fighter. There, right in front of him, he followed in the shadow of her tanned back as the light of her sword flashed, cutting through the enemy. He'd never seen such a reliable figure before. He felt so proud to be protecting her flank. At last they could no longer see the armor of the Dikito Kingdom around them. Instead, they were surrounded by soldiers of the Brose Empire. While the Empire was surprised by the intrusion of a woman with blood-red blade, they watched her cut down the Dikito Kingdom's men and noticed Bigot protecting her flank in his Brose armor. They mistook Bigot and Ghislaine for allies. That was when Markian surged in. The The two allied countries were shaken as the battle started up behind them. Not only had their bond alliance broken, but their formations as well. Markian, which should have been at a disadvantage, broke through their front lines. A chaotic battle ensued. Amidst the violent fighting, Bigot became separated from Ghislaine, but managed to rejoin his comrades. Shouts of joy rang out from the Markian mercenaries as they recognized Bigot and took up a firm position around him. Instead of falling back, Bigot remained on the front lines and kept fighting. The battle raged on. The soldiers covered in mud and blood, not fully aware of what was happening around them. Bigot took an arrow in his left eye. Anguished, he searched for the bowman responsible. That was when he saw it. He watched as it happened. Below an eye-catching banner, dressed in luxurious bronze armour, was a man with a black beard. Bigot saw the flash of red as that man, the Emperor of Bros, had his head sliced off by a brown-skinned woman. He laughed, and as he laughed, the battle wore on, and he lived. The final battle ended in victory for the Markian mercenary country. Thanks to his achievements, Bigot Mercenal earned the position of general. He was celebrated as a legendary hero for having succeeded in a suicide mission and for executing Dikato's king. After that, Bigot Mercenal continued to do spectacular work that resulted in him being known as one of the most outstanding great generals of the Markian mercenary country. That, however, is a story for another time. Once that decisive battle was over, the great General Bigot started doing something strange. He started wearing a necklace that had the profile of a female beast folk chiselled into it, and began painting the blade of his sword red. It's a good luck charm. His men began to imitate him, and those who heard their tales followed suit. These customs continued spreading until they took their modern-day shape. When asked what kind of good luck charm it was, Bigot responded thus: "I was helped by a goddess during that battle. I'm following her example." It was from his words that the forest goddess Lane was created. The name Ghislaine was difficult for those in the southern part of the central continent to pronounce, and so her name, altered by their accents, became Lane. She appeared from the forest, rescuing the life of the great general, becoming the goddess of salvation, forest goddess Lane. For the next 100 years she was worshipped as Markian's goddess of protection, providing support to the hearts of many soldiers. Of course, the real Ghislaine had no knowledge of this designation. Where did Ghislaine go after that? Was she still alive? Did she survive that battle and go home to Azura Kingdom? Was she able to meet that precious young mistress of hers again? Bigot Mercenal had no way of knowing. Okay, that is actually the end of the story. So, we know what happened next. We know that she reunited with Eris not long after this, and that was what happened at the end of the season. But they did seem to cut this from the anime, so it's a nice little story to enjoy. I'm going to go back now and just take a look at some of the comments you guys made while I was reading. So, I've got a lot of people to be thanking here. Who have we got? Oh, okay. Oh, Necro13 appeared. Hey, Necro. I actually watched your video the other day, Necro, about that girl that was talking about Konosuba being unfunny. I think it was probably one of the worst things I've ever seen. Not your video, I mean hers, obviously. Wow. Okay, Jeffrey Blake, thank you very much for the donation. That's lovely. Villy, Villainous Queen of Hearts, my girl, she's in the house. Nice to see you. Eurozoe, or how is that pronounced? I'm always thinking it's Eurozoe, but it could be Eurozo. Thank you very much again for the donation. Stephen Payne. Oh, thank you so much. You're all really, really kind. And the full 180. Nat, you son of a blank, I can't watch this now, but thank you for all the banging content. Oh, thank you so much. I am not a son of a blank. I'm kind of a daughter of a blank, I guess, but, you know, it's all right. Oh, for those of you saying you didn't get any notification about this, that was because this was just a kind of test run, really, to see if people like this kind of reading. I didn't really want to hype it up in case anything went wrong, where, as I said earlier, I haven't been streaming for a long time and wasn't entirely sure my software was going to behave properly. I've actually bought a load of new stuff recently for streaming. I've got a little stream deck, I've got a new little microphone and a second monitor, so everything's quite cool. But yeah, I didn't really want to hype up this stream. I just wanted to read a short story, you know, have a chat with people, and assuming everything worked well, I would commit to doing some longer stuff. It's been really nice reading that story out, but I think we can do some bigger stories, you know, like I was saying earlier, maybe some ReZero Ifroots, some other side stories, or maybe we could tackle something big like, you know, Jobless Oblige or something. I haven't decided whether I want to do Jobless Oblige and Redundancy as like series of videos like I did with Old Dragon's Tale, or as live streams like this. But I also want to start doing some just chatting streams, you know, talk about some things that happen in the anime community, like all those videos I made last week, like the one about Nezuko and the one about High Guardian Spice. Those things I think it could be fun to do as discussions. So, you know, we'll just see what people want me to do, really. You miss those old Dragon's Tale days. It was only like a week ago. Getting nostalgic for like 2 weeks ago. That's cool. Rathif or Aganauif? Can't wait for Oboreru. Well, Aganauif, you can't really read that because it's from a game. It's not really a story that I can just read out. It has been partially translated, but it's a bit difficult to do that as a live reading. Rathif would be possible, though. What else are people saying here? Is the name NatalieXHunter a pseudonym? Yes, it is. It's a pen name that I used to write books under. It's not my real name because my real name is actually super common, and there's other people who are authors and things with the same name as my real name. So it's not my real name, but it's the name you get. Will you be continuing the ReZero Arc 7 readings, or are they done now? I was never actually reading ReZero Arc 7. I was just summarizing the chapters as they came out. I stopped doing that during that time when people were getting a lot of copyright strikes from Kadokawa on ReZero content. So I was doing less ReZero stuff. But JakeZ123 still does the summaries of the new chapters as they come out. So I would just recommend everyone watches him. He's a good friend of mine, so, you know, definitely go and check out his channel. What else are people asking me? How about commenting on Attack on Titan fans losing their shit because My Dress Up Darling won 1 ranking? The community seems overly concerned about rankings and awards. Yeah, I mean, there has been a sort of history of that. Like last season, a lot of people, even Mushoku Tensei fans, were getting upset when Mieruko-chan was like sometimes winning the weekly rankings and things like that. I mean, I did like Mieruko-chan, but I didn't think it was up there with Mushoku Tensei. I don't think many things are. But, you know, if other people were enjoying it more and it was maybe appealing to a wider audience, I think that's fine. You know, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't stop us from watching it, or it doesn't mean that it's bad if it comes second or something. And Attack on Titan, I haven't watched this week's episode yet. I'm going to watch it after this stream. But I think most people already know what happens in it from the manga and all the spoilers. Whereas My Dress Up Darling is kind of something that not many people were paying attention to before the anime adaptation. And if people just happen to be more excited about seeing a new episode of that, I can completely believe why, I kind of had a thing like last spring when there were all those really good shows coming out. There were so many good things that season. There was the first part of 86. There was, what else? Vivi, Odd Taxi, some really good shows. And yet each week the thing I was looking forward to the most was Nagatoro, just because it was funny and it made me happy to watch it. And I think people feel the same way I did about My Dress Up Darling. So, if it's beating Attack on Titan, it is. People can just kind of suck it up, can't they? Can you read Ascendance of a Bookworm? I have watched it, I haven't read it. That's really all I can say about that. I could make some videos about it if people would be interested in that. I do like it as a series. I haven't read the novels, and I tend to kind of only go into depth about things once I've read them, so that I'm not just recounting things that everybody who already watched the same TV show already knows. At the moment I'm reading Overlord, as I've mentioned a few times, so I'm definitely going to be covering that soon. After that I was planning to do Shield Hero, but I can also add to my list Descendants of a Bookworm if that's something you guys would be interested in more content about. What else have we got here? Ranking of Kings is now my favourite anime this season, all due to a reaction clip. I haven't watched it yet. I keep hearing how good it is, but there's just something about the style of it that it's kind of a hard sell. I want to watch it, but every time I go to, I end up looking at something else instead. Have you read So I'm a Spider, So What? I haven't read it, no. It's another one where I do like the anime, so I will read it at some point, but I'm kind of trying to plan out which novels I'm going to read in which order and then cover things as I go. That's kind of the only way I can do it, because like I said, if I just do anime only content, I always feel like I'm just telling people things they already know, or let me just look through some more of these questions because they're coming thick and fast. Am I watching the cultural phenomenon World's End Harem? Yes, I am, because I actually used to write. I think a lot of people who watch my channel know this, but not all of them. I actually used to be a novelist, and I used to write harem books of that nature. I don't talk about it on my channel very much because I don't really want to be promoting that kind of book to my audience here, which is a bit broader in age, let's just say. But I wrote things that were kind of in the same genre as World's End Harem, let's just say. And when I first started watching it, I was like, this kind of sounds like a book series I wrote, only I think I did it better. I don't like the protagonist. I think he was kind of badly designed for that kind of series. But yeah, I am watching it, so yeah, cultured as always. Do you recommend My Next Life as a Villainess? I haven't read that either. I have watched the anime. I like it. It's funny. If you like things that are funny, then yeah, you probably like it. You'll love Ranking of Kings. So simple but so complicated at the same time. Its second OP is probably the best OP I've watched. Okay, that's high praise indeed for Ranking of Kings. I will probably get into that soon. Let's see what else people are asking. What are your thoughts on most shonen? I guess you mean shonen. I don't watch a lot of shonen, to be honest. It's not that I have anything against it. It's just not really the kind of thing I get super into. I'm more of a seinen person. There are a couple I really like, though. I really love Jujutsu Kaisen. I think Jujutsu Kaisen, Bleach, Chainsaw Man, those kind of things, I like because they've got slightly older protagonists. They haven't got that kind of feel of it's some lame boy that wants to be strong, so he follows the same path, That kind of classic shonen story. It's not like I've got anything against it. I'm not saying those kinds of shows like My Hero Academia and stuff are bad. I just don't particularly care about seeing that kind of story told. So yeah, I don't really watch them. But I do like Jujutsu Kaisen a lot. What else have we got here? Mew, 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 mew. Mew, 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 mew. Sorry, I like to make cat noises while I'm scrolling through this. Mew, 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 mew. I have to be careful I don't mew any actual tunes that I might get copyright strikes for. Parasite the Maxim, the anime and manga. That's a very good anime series. I like it a lot. I don't know about the movie Parasite. I've never actually seen that, but it's a completely different thing. So if you were asking about the anime, then yes, big fan of that. My Hero Academia is bad in my opinion, and the fan base make it worse. Yeah, I mean, I dropped it after about 5 episodes. It just wasn't sucking me in. But where I do spend a lot of time on Twitter, you know, for work, I did end up seeing a lot of the fan reactions, and I'm not going to say I don't agree with you there. Will you compare Chainsaw Man anime to novel when it comes out? Chainsaw Man's based on a manga, not a novel. Sorry to sound like really pedantic there. But I have read it and I do like it a lot. I'm looking forward to the anime a lot. I don't really know if I'll do like comparison type videos. I think a lot of people are going to be doing deep stuff on Chainsaw Man. So I think I will probably, you know, if I do cover it, it'll be more sort of broader analysis stuff rather than kind of weekly videos about each episode or anything like that. But I like it. What was the worst isekai you ever watched? There's this one called The Eighth Son, Are You Kidding Me? And that was so bad that it was actually the thing I made the very first video on my channel about, was like why it sucked and how I would fix it. Because it was bad from a like pure writing point of view. It was like they completely forgot it was an isekai like by the second episode, and it was very, very strange. Didn't really like that one. There's a few that I just think, well, this is kind of trashy, but I don't really mind watching it. I did actually watch every episode of the smartphone one, but you know, I don't say that I have good taste. It's just like where I rank them that matters, you know. Have you given Slime Reincarnation a shot? Do you know, I do watch it, but I've always thought it was a bit overrated, you know, like it's good, it's entertaining, I definitely like to watch it, but people kind of act like it has the kind of depth to it that things like Mushoku Tensei, ReZero do, and to me it's more kind of, it's a lot more casual than that. It's fun, but it's not, it ain't deep to me. But you know, people can like whatever they want. I'm not saying it's a bad show. It's just not one that I've ever felt the urge to like get deeper into, you know, to read it and to talk about it. So, you know, I just kind of leave it alone. It's I watch it, but I don't really talk about it much. Question about Makima. Did I know about Makima? I didn't, but I can't really talk about that because it will be spoilers for anyone who hasn't read it yet, and you know, it hasn't come out yet, so as an anime. Evangelion. I've never watched Evangelion. I should probably, maybe Evangelion is to me like, you know, when Gigak always goes on about how he's never watched Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. I have watched that. In fact, my cats are named after characters from Full Metal Alchemist, but I've never watched Evangelion. So, yeah, I know I should watch it. Anything you'd like to do a video series on, but haven't because you're scared there would be little interest? 86, probably. There was a time when I wanted to make some videos about 86. It was airing, you know, but no videos about 86 were doing very well. I made a video about Vivi, and that did really badly. And it seemed like that season, you know, there were a lot of anime that people were really loving, including 86 and Vivi. But what people were watching was so spread out that like the seasonal anime channels that cover episode by episode were just kind of not really getting a lot of views on things for those series. And I just sort of thought, well, if big channels like Chibi Reviews and stuff can't get views for 86, I'm not going to get views for 86. So that's why a lot of people did ask me to talk about it, and I just kind of, I didn't think it would do that well, so I didn't. But sometimes you can be surprised. I mean, I made a video about World Trigger that did all right once, so you never know. You can talk about things and just see how they do. But 86 just didn't seem like a good bet. What else can we see here? Looking for questions. Mew, 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 mew. Mew, 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 mew. People talking about Arifureta. I actually dropped the anime of Arifureta. I've heard the novels are kind of better. I might give it another chance. I don't know. What's the one thing you seek the most or that draws you in the most in a series? I like things with like mysteries in, you know, things you can make theories about, things that, you know, the author feels like they're doing something clever with it. It's not, you know, it's not predictable. You know, that was the main reason that I first got into ReZero. It's like watching the first season, you know, it was an entertaining show. It was good. But there were so many things that hinted to the lore being like bigger than what you saw in season 1. You know, like why was Park able to turn into the big beastie and, you know, freeze the world? And I was so curious about all of that. I just went and read it. And it was, you know, as good as I hoped it would be. It, you know, went really deep into the kind of intrigue and stuff that I find interesting. And I would say that, you know, Mushoku Tensei also scratches that itch. You know, if you like mysterious things with a lot of payoff to the stuff that's set up, a lot of kind of intertwined stories between characters, you know, that's the kind of stuff I like. But sometimes I just also like things that are just funny, which is why I really, really, really love things like Nagatoro and Dragon Maid, you know, things that just make me laugh and crack me up and have fire sacks in them. Would you talk about stuff outside of the otaku media? I don't know. Probably not. Because I don't do anything outside of that. No, I mean, the only things I do outside of being into anime and light novels, that sort of thing. I'm quite interested in martial arts, which is still a bit weeby. And gaming, but I pretty much only play weeby games, so... Yeah, I don't really think there's many things I could make content about that wouldn't tie into the otaku stuff, so I just stick to that, you know. Masquerade. I finally made it to 150 plus different anime series I watched. That's a lot. I don't actually know how many I've watched. I've been watching anime pretty much exclusively now for about 8 years. Because I never really watch movies and things, I just watch anime. And it started off mainly because I was writing books in genres that were very similar to anime, you know, isekai, harems, that sort of thing. And in the end, it just became the only thing I really watched. And the only thing I really knew about. So I just kind of stick with that now. And when people are talking about some actor from Hollywood or something, I'm always like, I have no idea who that is. But I know the names of obscure voice actors from Japan and stuff. Never knew martial arts were weeby. Well, they're not weeby, but they're, you know, Asian. At least the ones I do are. What martial arts do you practice? I do Wing Chun, Eskrima, and I've dabbled a bit in Muay Thai, but I want to take up, go back to karate this year because I did that when I was a kid, You know, haven't done that for a while, but I'd like to take it back up and get my black belt. Have you watched The Disastrous Life of Psyche K? Yes, I love that. I think it's hilarious, even after it went to Netflix. Has your deeper voice ever caused you trouble? Not in real life, no. Only on here. Only on YouTube. Have you considered making a less spicy story in terms of what you've written, so it might possibly be adapted one day, not by Netflix? I have written some stories that aren't spicy. I've got a couple of fantasy novels that I've written. Yeah, I'm not really worried about getting adaptations or anything. To be honest, I'm not even really that interested in writing novels at the moment. I got really bad writer's block when the lockdown started, and, you know, I was kind of stuck inside, not really doing any of the things that normally kind of give me ideas or give me inspiration. And I just got bad writer's block and decided to start a channel on YouTube and talk about other people's stories instead of writing my own. And I've just been enjoying that, you know. At the moment, I'm just enjoying this more. Are you going to do some live readings of your works on the channel? Probably not. I'm writing at the moment, well, on and off, I've been writing for a while. ReZero Ifru, just as a bit of a challenge to myself, because I've never written a fanfic, and I'll probably read that out when I finished it. But yeah, I don't really think anyone would be that interested in me reading out my own books. If they would, then probably those books would have sold more copies. Unfortunately, the books of mine that aren't spicy haven't sold as many copies as those that are. So that's the other reason why I mainly wrote the lewder stuff, at least under my own name. As a ghostwriter, I wrote all kinds of different things. What other languages do you speak? Italian, I assume. I do speak Italian, but not perfectly. I speak a bit of French as well. And I'm trying to learn Japanese, but that's going to take a long time. Oh, Garrett Connor, thank you so much. That's really kind of you. Sounds pretty deep to me by girl standards. I kind of like it though. It's pretty unique and works really well for the content she makes. Yeah, I mean, I never really thought my voice was that deep. I used to have singing lessons when I was younger, and you know, I'm like, by singing standards, I'm an alto, which isn't the lowest voice that it's natural for women to have. So I'd never really considered it that low. But I think on YouTube, where people just see my avatar and hear my voice, and they're maybe expecting more of a like anime girl voice, which is like, at least in English, is usually like a squeaky, high-pitched kind of voice, which I can do, but it annoys me. It annoys my ears, so I don't do it. I just use my real voice. What do you think of otaku culture as a whole, both internationally and Japanese, and do you consider yourself one? It depends really. The way that we consider otaku culture in the West, then definitely, because, you know, I'm very much in the anime community and all that sort of thing. The more like original Japanese meaning of it probably doesn't really apply to me, because, you know, I'm not really someone who like collects the accessories and merch and all that sort of thing. I just really enjoy the media, and most of my friends are interested in anime as well, so it's not like it's kind of a niche interest where I live. So, you know, I'm just into it. What was the highest you could kick? I don't know, actually. I haven't tried kicking as high as I can for a long time. I could probably kick over most people's heads, though. Are you going to start a Discord server? I actually already have a Discord server, which one of my community started for me back in the summer. And I kept it invite only because I was worried that certain people who'd been interacting with my channel and my subscribers around the time I was making those videos about neuralities might, you know, cause a bit of trouble on the server if it was public. So it was invite only, and I just didn't really have time to be on it very much recently. So I haven't been pushing it, I haven't been promoting it, but I do want to relaunch the server sometime very soon. So when I do, I'll make it public and you'll all be invited, and that will be Daijo Boo. So we can probably have some fun on there. Have you seen any anime live actions that you think are good? No. If you don't mind me asking, what games do you play? At the moment, I'm working my way through the Yakuza series. I'm really, really enjoying it. I got into it last year when it first came out on the Xbox, because it had been, you know, PlayStation only until then. And I've got an Xbox, so I played it when it came out on Xbone. I started with Yakuza 0, and now I'm on, just started 5 actually, of the 7 games that there are in the main line of Yakuza. So yeah, I need a bit more time to keep playing it because it's really cool. But generally I kind of play single player RPG type stuff. I like, you know, Fallout, Mass Effect, that kind of thing. Skyrim. I don't like multiplayer or anything competitive, so I'm not going to be streaming like League of Legends or anything. But maybe if people are interested, I'll stream when I'm playing Yakuza sometime just for a laugh. There's a lot of funny stuff in that game. Do you remember what your first anime was? Technically, my first anime was Cowboy Bebop, which someone lent me on DVD when I was like off sick from work for a while, years ago. I really liked it, but then I didn't really watch anime after that for quite a long time. And then I got into it from Attack on Titan. And after I watched season 1 of Attack on Titan, got super into the animes, you know, as you do. And that's, well, I guess like 8 years later, this is what you've got, you know, weeaboo. I'm sorry for any weird noises in the background. My cat is trying to get on my desk. He's trying to get up in here, and that's not a good thing. The anime that got me into anime was Blue Exorcist. I quite liked Blue Exorcist. It was weird how it jumped right to the end of the story, and then in the second season they kind of went back in time to an earlier part of the story, and it kind of like lost its stakes because you already knew how it was going to end. So I think that maybe the anime wasn't that well played, but Blue Exorcist was kind of good. How does your cat look? This one that's bothering me right now is Lil Black Cat. But I've also got a big fluffy Norwegian forest cat. The black cat is called Ed, and the fluffy cat is called Roy. And they're both named after characters from Full Metal Alchemist. Did you ever watch an Italian dub of an anime, and did you like it? I watched a bit of Attack on Titan in Italian with one of my friends once. I mean, I just don't really watch dubs, so I don't really care about that. And will you get down, cat? Okay, now my cat is actually in front of one of my monitors. So if my avatar starts to look weird, it's because he's got in between me and the camera. Have you played Dark Souls? Yes. That's the kind of thing I play, you know, single player things. I like them. Things that you can just suffer through forever. Or things that are funny, you know. Dark Souls isn't funny, but you can have funny moments playing it. I'm old as heck, so it was Fist of the North Star for me. Oh, I love Fist of the North Star. I have actually watched it all the way through, but I only watched it a couple of years ago. So there is actually a video game of, yeah, the cat stood on my stream deck. Don't worry about that. I'll be back in a second. It literally stood on my stream deck and put me into a intermission screen. Yeah. But I don't want to like fling my cat away, you know, like what's her name, Alinity. Definitely don't want to do that on stream. So I just kind of let him change my screen. What were we talking about before I got distracted by my cat? Fist of the North Star. There was actually a video game of Fist of the North Star, Ken's Rage, for the Xbox 360. And it was kind of one of those like Dynasty Warriors type things. But it was really good because they basically remade all the scenes from the anime as cutscenes. And it was actually like surprisingly good. Anyone watch Slayers? Yes, it's one of my favourites actually of like classic old anime. Slayers was actually one of the first series to be referred to as a light novel when it came out as books. And, then it got the anime adaptation. And it's probably one of the most influential light novel series there ever was. And it's also just hilarious. Everyone should watch it. Maybe I should make some videos about Slayers. Have you played the Half-Life series? No. I do want to, but I haven't. It's much like so many things, because I tend to play the games that have quite a lot of content and take a long time to finish. I only end up sort of getting through maybe 4 or 5 games a year, not switching between other things. Lena Inverse is cute and crazy. Yeah, she is. I mean, did you notice how much Megumin, when she casts spells in Konosuba, it's basically a kind of like, I don't want to say a rip-off of Lena Inverse because it's more like a kind of homage or whatever, but the way that she casts spells are very similar to Lena, and I kind of like think the explosion is just a toned-down dragon slave. Have you read Danmachi? No, I'm still anime only on Danmachi as well. It's another one that I will read eventually, but at the moment, anime only. I do like it though. Your cat wants your attention and to be in the way. Yes, my cat definitely does want my attention and to be in the way. Sorry, just to go back up. Thank you so much, Mr. Joe, for the donation there. That's really nice of you. Since my cat is being a bit of a pain, I think I'm going to wrap this up maybe in 5 more minutes so that I can feed him or whatever it is he wants that'll stop him trying to press buttons on my Stream Deck some more. It didn't even press one of the good buttons. I've got some buttons on here that I've kind of programmed to do interesting things, like play certain quotes, which I wasn't planning to use in this video because this was just a reading, but if we do something a bit more funny, messing around a bit more, maybe look at some terrible Mushoku Tensei memes or something, I've got some buttons that can have some fun with then. My cat just wants to be like, yeah. What volume of Overlord are you currently reading? I'm still only on volume 3. I haven't had much time for reading, so I'm still on the content from season 1 of... Have you seen Tsukimichi Moonlight Fantasy? Yes, I thought that was pretty good. It was kind of ignored while it was out, but it has sort of slight Konosuba vibes, maybe more on the end of like Tensura, where they set up their own kind of world inside the isekai world. I thought it was pretty good. Is this the VTuber debut? Well, I don't know. I've been using this avatar for like nearly 2 years, so I guess it's not really a debut, but yeah, it's only the second time I've done it on stream. How long do you think until ReZero Season 3? I have no idea. I don't know what the delay is with that. I'm surprised it hasn't been announced yet. But it hasn't, so I guess we just have to keep waiting. You should review Chainsaw Man once it comes out. Yeah, I did talk earlier about how I have read Chainsaw Man and I do like it, so I probably will make some videos about it. But I don't really like doing episode by episode reviews. And I think I'll probably just end up doing some general overall analysis type stuff for it. Who's best girl in Mushoku Tensei and why is it Eris? What's Eris? It's Eris because she's awesome. I don't know, really. I don't know why I love her the most, but I do. Another 4 years for ReZero Season 3. God, I hope not. We're not getting any younger out here. Do you play looter shooters? Not really. I quite like Borderlands, but other than that, not really. Yeah, a lot of people really like Roxy. I like Roxy as well, but I mean, I like all three of the main girls in Mushoku Tensei, but of the three, Eris is the type of character that generally appeals to me more, you know. I like them a bit feistier, what can I say? Big Dave's Anime Shack, are we getting it? Right, when I made that joke about Big Dave's Anime Shack back in the Noralities video, I was originally planning to make Big Dave a thing very soon after that. I was actually going to do it as the 10,000 subscribers video, I think. But I made the model for Big Dave. I kind of had some jokes in mind and stuff to do with him, but I just couldn't really come up with the right idea to make the video. So I'm kind of keeping it in the back of my mind that if I get inspired one day with something that I think will be funny to do with Big Dave, then he is set up, he is ready to go. So it might happen soon. I feel Sylphie gets the least love, not fair. I really like Sylphie. I think the thing with Sylphie is, without spoiling anything, I like Sylphie more when she's not Sylphie. I don't know if anyone will agree with that. Noralities is still being talked about. Not really, I was just referring back to the fact that was the video I mentioned Big Dave in. Orsted is best girl, yeah. I love Orsted. And Laplace is best girl, yeah, Laplace. I don't know how many of you guys are online right now listen to Old Dragon's Tale, but I think a lot of people were persuaded about Laplace either when they read that story or listened to it on my channel. I really, really love Laplace, and I hope he gets some kind of redemption in the end. I don't know if he will, but I think it would be great if he did. Because he's really cute, and he trained the little dragons. Yeah. Who's my favourite character in all of Mushoku Tensei? I don't know. It might be Ghislaine, you know. She doesn't do anything all that interesting, but just as a character, I just think she's awesome. I just love her. Probably in terms of actual characters with a real impact on the plot, probably Orsted. Now do an audiobook for the whole series. I'm not doing it. People keep asking. I'm not reading out 2.5 million words. I'm sorry, I just can't. I won't be able to make any of my other content if I do something like that. And I probably will get copyright striked into oblivion. So it's just not going to happen unless 7 Seas want to hire me to do it officially. So, you know. And I don't think that they would hire me for that because, you know, Mushoku Tensei is all written in the first person and the main character's a boy. So they're probably not going to hire a woman to read that out. But it would be fun. Cats were once worshipped as gods. They've never forgotten this. Yeah, mine certainly haven't. Is the sequel for Mushoku Tensei confirmed, or did it end with unresolved plots? As far as I know, the author always intended for there to be a sequel. That's kind of like why things were set up the way that they were with the unresolved plots at the end. Again, I don't know who's watching this because this video is spoiler free. This story that I read in this video, sorry, is spoiler free. I don't want to talk about the ending here, but with there being unresolved things and just the way it was set up all the way through, really, with the intention being for it to cover Rudeus' whole life, but with things, you know, set to happen that wouldn't happen in Rudeus' lifetime right from the beginning. I think the sequel was always part of the plan. And from what I've heard, he intends to start writing it once he's finished writing Orchiroica, which is the other series that Rifujin's working on, and also once all the light novels for Mushoku Tensei are out in Japan. So, you know, it could be as early as this year that he starts writing it. We don't know. Okay, I think that might be a good place to wrap things up. But thank you all so much for coming today. Also for helping me test out this format. I think I should hopefully be a bit smoother in the next one, because like I said, I was a bit nervous about doing this where I'd had a stream fail before for technical reasons, and I'm using all new stuff. So, you know, was a little bit, oh, this might go really badly. But thank you so much for all coming, and I'll see you on the next one, or, you know, in the next recorded video. And next time I will give you a bit more notice that I'm going to stream. Like I said, this was really just kind of wanted to check everything was working. I hoped some people would come, but I didn't really want anybody to be expecting too much from it, to be honest. So thank you so much. And I hope to see you again very soon.